Hi, this is Les and Amy from the RevGenetics Podcast. You can listen to the podcast on YouTube and now on Spotify, where we do a deep dive on supplements and longevity studies.
And today we are looking at something that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a horror movie.
It really does, but it might actually change how we think about making medicine.
We are talking about a silkworm, but not just any silkworm. This one gets infected by a fungus, turns completely white, and gets stiff as a board.
Yeah, the ick factor is pretty high. It's basically a zombie worm.
Right. But people have been using this stiff silkworm in traditional Chinese medicine for centuries.
And the science paper we're diving into today from early 2026 isn't about how creepy it is. It's about something much simpler.
It's about lunch.
Exactly. It's about what these worms are eating.
So the study asks this really modern question. Normally, these worms eat fresh mulberry leaves, but that's expensive. It's seasonal. It's a hassle.
Right.
So scientists asked, what if we feed them an artificial diet? Basically a protein shake made of corn and soy.
Does the junk food ruin the medicine?
That's the question.
It's like farm-to-table versus processed food, but for bugs. And the results were, well, they were not what I expected.
Not at all. It seems the junk food didn't just not ruin it.
It might have actually supercharged it. So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. To really get why this is a big deal, you have to understand the scale of the problem.
You mean the supply chain?
Exactly. In traditional Chinese medicine, this stuff is massive. It's used for calming nerves, for inflammation, and all sorts of things.
But you're relying on nature.
And nature is, moody. Mulberry trees, which are the only thing these worms normally eat, they're seasonal.
The leaves fall off in the winter.
Right. Or the trees get sick, or other bugs eat them. So if you're trying to make this medicine year-round, you're just stuck.
You're waiting for the trees to cooperate.
So this study in the journal Metabolites was really an attempt to industrialize the whole process. Can we raise them in a factory on a powder and get the same result?
It sounds like such a gamble. I mean, we're always told, you are what you eat. If I switched from salads to just protein powder and corn dogs, I'm pretty sure my health would take a nosedive.
You would assume the same for the worms,
Yeah.
right? That the medicine would be hollow or weaker.
Empty, yeah. But
Yeah.
that's what they had to test. And as we're about to see, biology is just a lot more surprising than we think.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. Let's dig into the actual experiment setup.
It wasn't just like tossing some corn flour in a box.
No, not at all. It was really rigorous. They set up 3 distinct groups to get a clear answer.
Group 1.
Group 1 was the traditional group, the purists.
The salad part group.
Exactly. These worms ate nothing but fresh mulberry leaves their whole lives,
Right.
from hatchling to infection. This is the gold standard. It's how it's been done for centuries.
Okay, so that's our baseline. What's group 2?
Group 2 are the rebels, the lab chow group.
Yeah.
They never saw a single leaf.
Not one.
Not one. Their whole life was this formulated powder mix, mostly soybean meal, corn flour, vitamins, that kind of stuff.
So a meal replacement shake for bugs.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
It's processed, it's consistent, you can store it forever. And then there was a third group, just to make things interesting.
The switchers.
The switchers. They started on the artificial diet as babies, but then halfway through their lives, they got switched over to the fresh mulberry leaves.
Oh, I get it. So they were asking, does your whole life matter? Or just, what you eat right at the end?
Pretty much. Like, can you eat junk food for 20 years, then switch to kale for a month and call yourself healthy?
Right.
So once all these worms grew up, they were all infected with that special fungus, the Beauveria bassiana.
That's the stuff that turns them into the actual medicine.
That's the stuff. And then the scientists ran the analysis.
And when you say analysis, you mean metabolomics.
Right, which is just a fancy word for looking at every single chemical inside the worm.
Every ingredient on the label.
Exactly. And they were looking for one key thing to start with, a compound called bovaricin.
Bovaricin sounds important.
It's the main indicator. It's made by the fungus, and it tells you the infection worked and the medicine is, active.
It's the secret sauce.
It is. If the bovaricin levels were low, it would mean the artificial diet made for a weak host.
And it's not medicine, it's just a dead bug.
Correct. And here's the first big headline.
What happened?
Didn't matter what they ate. The worms on the corn and soy powder had basically the same amount of bovaricin as the ones eating the fancy leaves.
You're kidding. So the fungus just doesn't care.
The fungus does not care. It does its job whether the host ate a salad or a shake.
Wow. Okay, but that's not the end of the story, is it?
Not even close. That's the twist. The diet did change a lot of other things.
This is the part that blew my mind.
Right, because we think of processed food as having less stuff in it.
Less nutrition, yeah. But here, the corn and soy actually added extra goodies.
That's exactly what happened. The artificial diet is made from soy and corn, and these plants have their own healthy compounds called flavonoids. Specifically, they found two, apigenin and luteolin.
Wait, apigenin. That's in chamomile tea, right? The
Yeah.
stuff that helps you relax.
It is. It's a great antioxidant, has calming effects, and luteolin is in things like celery, and it's fantastic for inflammation.
And the natural diet, the mulberry leaves, they don't have those.
Not in high amounts, no. They have their own compounds, but not these specific ones. So by feeding the worms the, quote, cheap diet, they accidentally loaded them up with these extra calming and anti-inflammatory nutrients.
That's like ordering a plain burger and finding out the chef secretly mixed a multivitamin into the patty.
It's a perfect way to put it. The worm is just a little biological vessel. It holds onto what it eats.
So the final medicine was better, broader.
It had a broader spectrum of benefits than the original. It's fascinating.
It really is. It turns that whole natural is always better idea on its head. And, speaking of finding the best stuff in nature,
It is great to have RevGenetics powering this deep dive today.
RevGenetics has been in this field for so long, always looking for those evidence-based natural compounds.
They really zero in on the science,
Yeah.
finding things like NMN or micronized resveratrol that can actually support cellular health.
It's just like this study. It shows how specific plant compounds can upgrade a biological system. And RevGenetics is all about finding those specific ingredients to help upgrade ours.
Exactly. It's all about the right inputs for the best outputs, whether you're a silkworm or, a person.
So we've established that this junk food diet made a kind of superworm.
Mm-hmm.
But let's zoom out. What does this actually mean for the future? I mean, it's cool for the worms, but what about for us?
Well, the first thing is huge, and it's all about accessibility. We talked about that supply chain problem.
Moody trees.
The moody trees. If you can switch from seasonal leaves to a standardized powder, you can make this medicine anywhere, anytime.
In a factory in the middle of a city.
Yeah.
Or in the desert. You're not tied to the weather or the seasons.
Precisely. That means the cost goes down, the reliability goes way up, no more shortages. And that makes medicine more available to everyone.
That's a huge deal. But I'm even more excited about the supercharged part.
The accidental upgrade.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Let's get more specific. We mentioned apigenin for calming, but the study found a direct link to how our brains work.
Okay, let's break that down. The traditional use for this medicine was to calm wind, right?
Right, which in traditional terms can mean things like spasms, tremors, anxiety, that sort of internal chaos. The study found the artificial diet worms had way more of a compound called N-methyl-4-aminobutyric acid.
Okay, that's a mouthful. What does it do?
It is a direct precursor to GABA.
GABA, that's the main chill-out chemical in your brain. It's what tells your nerves to stop firing so much.
It's nature's brake pedal.
Yeah.
So by feeding them the corn and soy diet, they boosted this GABA precursor.
So they literally made the medicine better at its original traditional job of calming people down.
Isn't that wild? The fake diet made the medicine more authentic to its purpose. And then there's the diabetes connection.
Your sugar blocker.
Exactly. They found another compound, N-deferroyloylputrescine, that acts as an alpha-glucosidase inhibitor.
Whoa, okay, in plain English.
Alpha-glucosidase is an enzyme in your gut. Its job is to break down the carbs you eat into simple sugar so your body can absorb it.
Okay.
An inhibitor stops it from doing that job, or at least slows it down.
So your body absorbs sugar much more slowly. No big blood sugar spike after a meal.
You got it. And that's exactly what someone with, say, type 2 diabetes needs to manage.
And this compound came from the corn and soy diet.
Very likely, yes. So now you have a traditional medicine that might also be a potent tool for modern blood sugar management.
This just opens up the most amazing possibility. If we can do this by accident with corn and soy, what if we did it on purpose?
Now you're talking about designer diets.
Yeah, like why stop there? Could we feed them, I don't know, blueberries to make an antioxidant-rich worm?
Or turmeric for an even more anti-inflammatory one.
A spicy pepper worm for metabolism.
Theoretically, yes. The silkworm becomes a tiny biological factory. We control the raw materials, the diet, and it processes them into a custom-made medicine.
I'll take one brain health silkworm smoothie, please.
It sounds like science fiction, but this study shows the principle is sound. We can move from just harvesting what nature gives us to actively engineering a better outcome.
It really challenges that idea that wild or traditional is automatically better. Sometimes a controlled scientific approach can improve on nature.
It shows that when we understand the chemistry, the metabolomics, we can make smarter choices.
We don't have to pick between ancient wisdom and modern tech.
We can combine them.
And that combination could lead to better, cheaper, stronger medicines for everybody. It's a really hopeful thought.
It certainly is.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode on the latest published science.
Thank you for listening to the RevGenetics Podcast.
RevGenetics.com for the best longevity supplements on Earth.